the presentation up? What I actually did, I made a short PowerPoint presentation because I don't want to go through the white paper and bore you to tears, so we'll go over the short PowerPoint. First, I just wanted to thank people in the audience. All our Gopher Tortoise friends are here. We have there's so many people to thank. I mean, from the community, Andrew Tyler, Lori Beal, Brad Cornell, Maria Lamb, Brittany Piersma, they all gave me information, gave me their time, spoke to me on the phone in preparing my report. On the city end, Tanya Smelsky, Laura Litzen, and Tim Pinter were gracious enough to help me understand the financing behind the survey. So thank you all. Let me just kind of take you through. That's a Gopher Tortoise, for those in the audience who've never seen one of those big guys. They are unique to Marco Island, and we're blessed to have them. They've been here a hell of a lot longer than we have, and with a little luck, they'll be here a hell of a lot longer than we will be. Some quick facts about Gopher Tortoises. On April 10th, there was a celebration of the first Gopher Tortoise Day. Hopefully, it'll be the first of many. I'd like to see it made an annual event and get promoted better, because I wasn't even aware of the planning that went into it. Gopher tortoises are what are called a keystone species, which means that their burrows actually provide homes for over 350 other species of animals, which is incredible when you think about it. 350. I didn't even know we had 350 species on the island. Marco Island has ideal native habitat and soils that are perfectly suited to Gopher tortoises. And as I said, they've lived here for many hundreds of years. This is our beloved island, and I just wanted to actually use my pointer to show you. If here's Residence Beach, for example, San Marco Road comes all the way up here. We actually have a highlands area that most people are unaware of, which is around Barfield Bay, okay? And that stretches from all the way up by where the high school is, and you go along Sheffield, and then you come along, and you go down Barfield, South Barfield, all the way along. And if you're on like Caxambas Court or Inlet or Watson, you're actually over 20 feet, 30 feet above sea level on Marco Island. There's a lot on the corner of Watson and Inlet that is so high. I took a member of the Conservation Collier out on a tour, and we actually visited that section of the island, and she was just blown away by the diversity and terrain on Marco Island and how we have habitat on Marco Island in the highlands section that's just unique. It's unique to Southwest Florida, and she was just surprised that there were so many Gopher tortoises there. So more quick facts. As of May 24th, Audubon of the Western Everglades had surveyed 126 properties. And believe me, the survey process is rigorous. It involves getting down and dirty and scratched and sweaty and going through these lots and actually looking at these burrows after we've gotten proper permission to go on these lots. These folks counted 1,345 potentially occupied burrows. And remember, each one of them houses habitat for 350 native species. All right. And it was estimated that there were 673 Gopher tortoises housed in these burrows. And this all came about through a city-funded survey through the Beach and Coastal Resources Advisory Committee. So I want to thank the Beach and Coastal Advisory Committee for this. And hopefully, as you'll see later, we continue this survey. There's another one of those cute little guys. Other quick facts: some of the most prime upland residential lots with Gopher tortoises on Marco Island, unfortunately, are for sale. And if you go down Caxambas Drive and you go down Inlet and Watson and Scott and Indian Hills, you'll see these prime Gopher tortoise habitats with for sale signs on them. I actually took a couple of pictures, but I didn't know if it would be legal or ethical to show the realtor's name with a little Gopher tortoise in front of the signs. I decided not to do that. And these lots are really desirable properties for Conservation Collier to purchase and maintain. And as we've discussed in February, I've been involved with Conservation Collier, have tried to identify willing sellers, and now that we've had someone from Conservation Collier actually visit our island and see what we're all about, I'm hoping they have a better sense of what's going on here. So identifying these lots and convincing conservation collier of their preservation value is a very cost-effective strategy. So what can we do right now? Again, I'm just pulling this out of the paper. One thing we can do, which won't cost us anything additional, is just to support the continued funding of this survey. This Gopher Tortoise survey is critical. It'll give us all the information we need to know about population and movement, how these tortoises move around our island, how they cross streets, how they get from one place to another. That's vital if we're going to help preserve them. It's also vital if we ever get into any serious conservation efforts where we're thinking about getting conservation collier or the city itself to purchase lots. It would make much more sense to have lots that are contiguous and provide pathways for these creatures. Second thing we can do is support the city's Gopher Tortoise signage program. And I'm thankful to Tim. He and I went over this. We actually have signs, and they're ready to go up. But I found out that it isn't just simply us going out and digging holes and putting them up. We have to get permission to be on property. We have to make sure they conform with Florida Department of Transportation right-of-way requirements. So it's a little more involved, not something we can't work out, but Tim's ready and eager to do this as soon as we get approval. What we could also do, and I'm willing to do this, is identify and nominate additional properties for protection. I found out that as a citizen, any one of us can actually send a letter to Conservation Collier with a picture and say, here's a lot, it's prime habitat, you should consider contacting the owner and see if they're a willing seller and consider it in your round of acquisition and acquisition cycle. And we're smack dab in the middle of an acquisition cycle, which is that time which Conservation Collier looks at potential properties and then ultimately winnows it down and decides which ones they're going to purchase. And lastly, what we can do is we've identified 3 lots. Our city council has written letters to these owners. We could continue outreach, maybe with a phone call or an additional letter. The 3 lots that we nominated in February, I never received feedback on, so I turned them over to Conservation Collier. They sent a letter out to those folks, but there's nothing prohibiting us from trying to reach them, maybe over the phone. Again, I'd be willing to do that. Another one of our wonderful tortoises. And what can we do moving forward? Number one, I was made aware of by members of the Gopher Tortoise. What are we going to call you guys? The Gopher Tortoise Preservation Community? How's that sound? That there are actually people on Marco who own lots where there are Gopher tortoises, and they would like to preserve those lots. They would like to donate them or whatever. So we need to support those folks, and we need to figure out what's the best way to do that. And spending time talking with them, talking with people from Audubon, talking with people from Conservation Collier will help us figure out the best way to support those residents. When it comes up to the time where Conservation Collier is going to make a decision on what lots they're going to buy, we can actually lobby our county council and provide testimony. Actually go to the meeting where Conservation Collier will meet with the county council and say, this is why we think you folks should support preserving these lots on Marco. People have the impression that Marco Island is this wealthy little island and we solve all our own problems and we don't need any help and we don't have, we don't have any needs like this. They really are not aware of that these lots are unique. This habitat is unique and we need their help preserving them. Third thing we can do is actually create a mechanism to receive donated preservation land. Now, right now, if somebody wanted to give the city a lot, I don't think there's a mechanism in place, and I might be wrong, Mr. City Attorney and City Manager. I don't know if we can actually receive the lot. I think we need a formal legal mechanism to do that.
Parks Foundation.
Parks Foundation will do it. I was going to ask Councilor Bruckner if that is so. Sure. And then the last thing we could do is create a safe harbor management program. And I just borrowed your term, Chairman Grafoni, but this is really what I'm talking about. The Fish and Wildlife Conservation, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation has what is called a Gopher Tortoise Friendly Yard program. And Maria Lamb is actually qualified for this, and she's awaiting her paperwork and her sign. But In order to qualify, you need to plant at least 3 species of high or very high level forage plants. You need to protect the tortoise burrows, and you need to control invasive species. And my thought is, if we can have some kind of incentive for people who have these lots, this habitat on their property, similar to what we did with the Safe Harbor program, maybe offer a cash incentive to get these people to actually go for this, it would, do a lot to preserve the habitat. And, they could use that money to do things like clear invasive species, that's on the lot, or do things right now, plant additional high forage plants. So I think that's something that we could do moving forward. The last thing, I actually thought about adding this, but I knew Martin would kill me if I gave him another PowerPoint presentation. I would like to see us consider moving forward, creating an open space preservation fund. And I've spoken to Gil about this while I was running for city council. And we as a city council can create any additional funds we want. The problem is financing them and supporting them. But, with as little as a couple $100,000 of seed money, we could create an open space preservation fund that moving forward we could feed in. And that is a very valuable thing to have when we're looking for matching grants. We can say that we have a fund, we have this much money in it, and we are willing to match a grant moving forward. So I think that's something that, although it's not on here, it's worth thinking about moving forward. So that's it. Our little guy is retreating into his burrow, and I gladly entertain any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Blana. Councilor Irwin.
That was really good. That was very interesting and very informative and cute.